So the New York Times came out with an article the other day talking about Dungeons and Dragons and everything with the new rules and the new identity. And I know a lot of people are freaking out. They're very unhappy with Wizards of the Coast right now, talking about how it's going woke, it's going to go broke, it's becoming too liberal, going too far left. And I just want to tell people, it's fine. Everything is just fine. I know people are freaking out and it's for no reason. So we're going to talk a little bit about some of the things that are going on, what people are getting upset about, and why you have nothing to fear. So the first thing that's getting brought up a lot is I see a lot of people complaining about the X. If you don't know what that is, in some of the new rules, they have a section where it says if somebody's feeling uncomfortable or they're not enjoying what's going on, they can put up their hands in the sign of an X to put a halt to what's happening. Now, I know that seems like a very weird thing to put in the book, and I know for a lot of people, they have the maturity and the common sense to know what's, acceptable at the D&D table and what's not. But for new players who really prefer to have everything written down for them, which I get it, it seems weird, but some people really do like to have it. It's a good rule to have. Now, what I would recommend for all DMs and all play groups is to talk about your do's and don'ts at the table, what you do find acceptable, what you don't, what you expect from everybody. And you don't have to do something so aggressive like throwing up your hands into an X. You can simply say like, hey guys, I don't like where this is going. Can we maybe just like fade to black and end the scene? I find a lot of the times none of my groups have ever been too aggressive or too violent where I thought, hey, this is getting out of hand. But stuff like SA or DV is really unacceptable for some people. They've had bad experiences and they just don't want to bring it into their fantasy world, which is completely acceptable. It's okay to be like, hey, I don't want this trauma of mine to show up in the one place where I get to escape. And that's okay. Talk to your DM. Talk to your players, have a good understanding, have a good relationship. Now, for newer players, maybe you're just joining up to Roll20 or going to Adventurers League, same thing. Talk to those people first. Maybe there's a house rule, a set of do's and don'ts, things that are just expected, or just watch and see how the group interacts, and if you think you can mesh with them, so be it. Now, if you find yourself really clashing with other people, the alternative is you just don't play together. Not everybody has to play together. People are going to find differences. It could be a friend or a family member or just a random person that you found in a pickup group. And you can tell them like, hey, listen, I think we're just clashing. I don't really see ourselves going forward. The DM, you have to remove people. It does happen at times. And as a player, if you find yourself not agreeing with the rest of the group, you might have to leave and say, hey guys, I appreciate it, but this group just isn't for me. It happens. It's okay. Don't feel bad. No one's going to have hard feelings. Everyone's just going to be like, hey, I get it. Understand, nod head, and move on. Some issues I see people bringing up is Dungeons & Dragons released a book culminating everything that happened in the past, how they got there, kind of like a little biography style book. Now, in there, they do have like a foreword where they talk about, hey, back in the day, things were a little sketchy. We don't like it. It wasn't who we really are and stuff like that. Basically, they shit on Gary Gygax, and he's the guy who created Dungeons and Dragons. He's passed away, but he still has a friend who's alive who did work with him on the original game itself 50 years ago. And he does mention how he thinks it's really shitty that they were talking about him like that, how they would kind of address a problem that doesn't really need addressing. And for him, and for a lot of groups, it probably doesn't. But for people who just don't know, or for people who are a little intimidated, having that issue addressed is fine. But back to the forward, I really think it's inappropriate for them to talk about Gary that way. I think anytime you look backwards in time, especially 50 years ago, which is, it's way before I was born and most likely before you were born, you can't compare that to today. Things are much different now. And you don't want to use it as an excuse, but something created 50 years ago is going to look quite shocking to somebody who's reading something from today. There's going to be a lot of adjustments. There's going to be a lot of even wordplay and descriptions that are just not going to really translate as well. And some themes that maybe you're like, why would they ever do this? But at the time, it was what they wanted to create. It's what they thought was acceptable. And it was widely accepted. They had their critics. They had the mothers and some other parents who were grabbing the pitchforks and torches, talking about demonic and Satan culture and stuff like that. But Dungeons and Dragons survived. They persevered. They went 50 years. They're going God knows how many more. It's not stopping, and that's okay. So people are also bringing up the change from race to species, and this is something that Pathfinder has been doing for quite a while. They changed over ancestry and heritage. They no longer used race, and nobody got up in arms about that, so I don't know why people are getting upset now that Magic changed it. Wizards of the Coast made the adjustment. They switched over to species. It is what it is. If you don't like it, use the other word. Like, I'm probably never going to use species. I played for however many years now. I've always used race. I'm always going to ask them, what race are you? What race is your character? It's just how it's going to be at my table. If you have a problem with it, we can talk, but ultimately, I'm probably not going to remember to change it. It's not going to happen. I'm going to say race. It's okay. It's okay to be different. They talk about the changes in the races as well. See, I just did it. How it's like, oh, a dwarf isn't as stout and stern as they were, or elves aren't as graceful, as dexterous. Listen, everyone's different, man. Everyone gets born a little different. People are smarter. People are faster. People are stronger. It happens all the time. We already had the racial attribute adjustment happen in 5. Mordenkainen, he did it already. Literally, a blanket rule that all races can have their abilities changed to a +2/+1 or a +1/1/1. This has already happened. It's nothing new. It's been around for a long time, and it was a great rule to change. Not every race is exactly the same cookie cutter as the one before it. There's going to be alterations. There's going to be people who are stronger, faster, smarter, wiser, more charismatic. That's fine. I don't care about the ability adjustments. I think it's smart to have that. I don't think it should be locked in that dwarves are constitution and strength and elves are intelligence and dexterity. There's going to be elves who aren't too smart. Maybe they're wise. Maybe they're charismatic. Maybe they're just strong. Maybe you just have a buff-ass charismatic elf. That's cool, man. So Elon Musk has also been discussed. He made a tweet, or X, I'm not sure what they call it, about buying Dungeons and Dragons. Now, of course, I would imagine he would buy all of Wizards of the Coast. It's quite profitable. They also have Magic the Gathering that's been doing quite well for a number of years. But ultimately, probably not going to do it. I don't know if Hasbro is willing to let go. But of course, if he makes an aggressive approach, he does have the capital to be able to push something like that. I don't really think he would. I feel like Hasbro is already doing what he would do anyways, which is lay off a bunch of people and try to replace them with AI. And if it's not working for them, I don't really see it working for Elon. So he's probably just, doing it to test the waters and kind of get people talking and stirring about it. But ultimately, I don't think it's going anywhere. Hopefully, Wizards course corrects and they start hiring people back. I think anytime you remove the human element to a game, especially in regards to role-playing, you're really killing it. But yet again, you make what you want of it. Dungeons & Dragons is whatever you want it to be. Even if a robot makes it, you can take it into your home and then you can role-play however you want if you want to use the rule set. I really hope they do change their course when it comes to that kind of thing, because I could see people eventually leaving. They want that human element. They don't want to feel like they're just a number who has to pay to get to service. I don't really think they want to do a lot of online. I think Dungeons & Dragons really thrives in person. Having a physical book, physical dice, being around a table together is really where it shines. Wizards of the Coast has also stated that their books are flying off the shelves, that it's a record number of sales. They can't keep up with the demand. They're printing more. Let me tell you, I heard a lot of people complaining about not being able to get the alternate covers of the 50th anniversary for the Player's Handbook and the DM's Guide. At my stores in my town, they had a shelf stocked with both. They weren't being sold. Nobody was buying them. I walked in late to get the Player's Handbook, picked it up, no problem. I got in weeks late to get the Dungeon Master Guide and got it with the alternate cover, no problem, and they still had other ones there. I don't see it flying off the shelves. I'm not sure in what demographic they are flying off the shelves. There's been some reporting where if they were selling as great as they say they were, that on the bestsellers list and stuff like that, and that's not happening. So it is a little far-fetched, I believe. I think it's selling well, but I think it's going to take time. People have the 2014 book, and as Wizards themselves said, you don't need to switch over, that they're they're compatible, they're interchangeable. So people might not be in a rush to buy the new book. Now, of course, you're welcoming all these new players. A bunch of people are coming in. They're going to be buying the new book. They're not going to be looking at a book that's 10 years old. They're going to be looking at a fresh book with fresh art that's available. So everyone new coming in, of course, will buy the newer books. And they're going to see numbers steadily rise over time and, keep at a good pace. Eventually, people are going to probably cave and buy the books. They're going to want to have them for themselves. They're going to want to have options at their table. I do like a lot of the changes. I think the martial classes have got a nice boost. I think some of the adjustments are really great. I've been having a good time with it. My players have been having a good time with it. I don't really see the problem. If you're enjoying the older rules, then by all means, keep going. I know a lot of groups that still just do AD&D, and they're fine with it. They understand it. It's not, some crazy new mechanics or anything like that. It's just what they love. But realistically, the reason why people play the editions they do is because they fall in love with them and they understand them and they're comfortable with them. Everything else is mechanics, and then you get to role play however you like. So it doesn't matter if it's 20 years old or 30 years old, you still role play however you enjoy, and you just use mechanics kind of to back it up sometimes, or for combat situations and other things. So there's really no problem. There's no rush. Do I think the books are selling like crazy like they're saying? No, absolutely not. Do I think the books will sell just fine? Yes. Do I think Wizards of the Coast will be just fine? Absolutely. I don't think they're going bankrupt at any time. Some of the things they did? Yes. I think the Artificer that they just kind of like pseudo released after putting out a new player's handbook is very greedy of them. They did it before in Tasha's Cauldron where they put it in, but that was a good amount of space after. But this time you're putting out the player's handbook, and then shortly after you're saying, oh, look, we have another class, test it for us, and then we will finally put it out in a source book, which of course people are going to want to get because they're going to want the class. And also they remember how important Tasha's Cauldron of Everything was. Everyone used it. Even my brand new players who had never played before all picked subclasses out of that book. Their first time creating characters. All of them. So it just goes to show you how much better they are and how appealing they are. So people are of course going to be like, oh, whatever book that comes out with, that new class comes out with, is going to be a must buy. Which I get it. Wizards is a business. They're trying to sell books. They're trying to make money. But when you have it so close to releasing the player's handbook, why didn't you just make him a core class? The Warlock was never a core class, and then you pushed him in there. Push him in and come up with something new. Come up with something new and interesting. You have, you have everything at your disposal to be able to come up with a new class, something that's fresh and new that can be added to the 2024 edition of Dungeons and Dragons, and you have nothing yet. Now, there is a class that I am kind of excited for that is new, that doesn't come from Wizards, and I have another video about that coming out, so look forward to it. Other than that, let me know if there's anything that Wizards has been bothering you with lately, something that you just find unacceptable, something that you wish they'd change, or if you're just willing to ignore it all and just keep moving on. Dungeons & Dragons is whatever you make of it at the table. The rules are there to help guide you, but ultimately you can make adjustments. If you don't find them to your liking, you can change them. Just make sure you notify your party before you do. Other than that, guys, you have a good night. Happy New Year, by the way. Let me know in the comments section what's going on with you. Do you have any New Year's resolutions? Be pretty cool to hear. Drop me a like and a subscribe. I love making these videos for you guys. And until next time,